Well, what's this hiding behind the Christmas tree? It looks like bonus episodes of After 4 with your name on it. You must have been on the nice list this year, alumni. That, and we just had too many fantastic conversations to fit them into our normal episodes. Now, the tag says that very little editing has been done, so they might sound a little rougher than normal, but we hope you enjoy them all the same. Thanks for all your support this season. We're looking forward to being back with you on January 24th for the beginning of Season 3. For now, though, enjoy your presents. Oh, look, this one's for you, alumni. This question's already answered without me even asking, but I'm just going to ask it anyways because I want to hear, it was just compile it all into one place here. But, you know, if you were a student within a varsity or staff within a varsity like I am now, we hear this vision of lives transformed, campuses renewed, world changers developed all the time, like over and over and over and over and over again. We hear that. And so tell me just a little bit more about the ways that both of you are experiencing, like, this is the way that I'm in process being transformed as a world changer because of being associated with Beza. And then also, as if you haven't already told us enough, like tell us again the world changing work that you get to be a part of because of the partnerships that Beza has. How would you identify those in the terms of like world changer?
For me, that felt so intangible when I first was in university, right? And then even initially, as I started, as in Ethiopia, it's like, okay, world changer, like. In my mind, that means I would have to be able to see the impact of the world changing, right? And then that feels very overwhelming. But then as we started to see, okay, for one of these girls being rescued, right? Well, what does that mean? Well, that means she's not being prostituted out 2 to 3 times a night. That might seem like not much that one person's rescued, but for that individual, that is world changing. And so for me, it really changed it from we're going to be fighting with these big macro issues at the same time. For each individual, changing their world is what we're called to do, and is possible, right? And so, as I think about how has that continued to happen in my life? Not only is it one continuing to see how do I foster that passion for the things that God's passionate about. And he wants to see the world changed. But even my experiences in Ethiopia and spending time in another culture has impacted for me personally. So outside of Beza, recently in the last year, my family and I have gotten an opportunity to kind of sponsor one of the recent Afghan families as they've kind of immigrated to the U.S. And I'm thinking about all the experiences of my first time in Ethiopia. And now they're having those first experiences in a culture completely different than their own, with different language. And so like for my family, it's like, how do we, that passion for the broader world, and how do we connect with them on the simple things, right? Of, let me show you how to use the bus system, right? It can be world changing. And so that's for me, is how do we try to address some of the bigger issues, but at the same time, changing the life in a small way for somebody around you is world changing, and you can be highly engaged in that.
Yeah, that's super encouraging to hear, because I think sometimes, when we share a story like something like Beza Threads, it feels like, okay, so you're telling me I have to start a business to be able to change the world. And it's like, no, part of this is, what does it look like to connect with someone on a human level and help them thrive in their context at a level that they weren't before, and that maybe you're able to help give them access to, and that's a part of changing the world for somebody and being a world changer. And that feels much more tangible to me as, John sitting in his office right now to be able to do something like that.
For me, I had a similar perspective shift. It kind of looked a little different. I remember my first trip to Ethiopia, and the first night we walked through the prostitution district. And underneath, like, the heartbreak of it all was just this ball of anger that because at the time, there's probably 150,000 girls and women in that district, in that open air prostitution district, and just wanting to get them all out. I want them all out. and feeling just this sense of helplessness that I couldn't get them all, that our organization isn't going to get them all. And just being like, well, then what's the point? And I just remember God saying to me that his job was to care for all of them, but also he cares for each of them equally. And that, you know, when I think about the fact that we rescue, you know, 10 or 15 girls a year, it's drops in the bucket compared to that. Now, thanks to the pandemic, closer to 200,000 in that district. But like Josiah was saying, if you think about being one of those girls, if you think about being one of those 10 or 15 girls that we rescue every year, that's like a 1 in a million chance of having their lives drastically changed. And so just being able to remember like, okay, but that for that girl, that's a miracle. And it's going to change her life forever. And we know that it's going to change her life forever because we have girls right now that went through our program, went out and had an internship somewhere else in the city. We hired them to lead other students going through the leather program, and now they're our leaders. And not only that, I got an email a couple months ago, just a celebration email, because 2 of these students turned artisans, turned mentors and leaders in our program are married, and they're having babies, and they're starting a family. And that's exciting, but it's profound when you think about the perspective of these girls' journeys and how a few years ago, their relationship with men was not one that men were trustworthy or that men were lovable or anything like that. So the fact that they could make such a dramatic transformation in their lives to now wanting to be married and to start families, like that ripple effect of the change that they are going to produce in their community, it's farther than we could ever see or imagine. So even though I want them all, I'm an Enneagram 3, I'm an achiever, I want to do it all. God is really just like telling me to focus on what he's given us, and that these few are so worthy and are so important, and they matter so much that we need to give them the attention that he has asked us to. For me personally, I go to Ethiopia and I come back home. I talk to Ethiopia weekly. I do this work every day. It's just a natural now part of who I am. And I've got, like I said earlier, I have 4 kids. So I love it because I have a son who's 12, and we talk about this all the time. We talk about Ethiopia and the work that I do all the time. And when he was a 4th grader, he wrote a paper on human trafficking in the world, and he shared it with his class. And he asked his teacher if I could send them pictures from Ethiopia so that he could tell people about it. Right. This year, he's a 7th grader. He's in one of their classes needed to propose a program, an organization to raise money for and give that money away. And so he created a 10-slide PowerPoint on Beza and why his fellow peers should care about Beza and should want to use Beza as the organization's fundraiser cause. And so I just love it that I'm seeing my kids, like, we're talking about human trafficking on a global issue and on a local issue in our family. And it means something to my kids too. And they're going out and they're doing something about it. And so again, just like the ripple effects of what that will do. Like that's just one way that God is changing me personally.
That's cool. I mean, you talk about the generational impact that Beza has on people, in these women in Ethiopia, but then also like mirrored, you have this generational impact that's happening in your own home, your own family, the people that you're connected with. And like, that's just super cool to see these things. As a 4th grader, I was not talking about this stuff. I wasn't even thinking about the possibility of it existing, and that's something that, even though it is a sad, broken reality to be aware of as a 4th grader, to be something that you're like, this means something to me at this age, and to continue to grow into caring deeply for these people locally and globally, that's something that could have serious personal impact and far-reaching impact beyond that. That's so exciting to hear a story like that. I mean, I'm like sitting here fighting back tears, thinking about my own daughters and, the possibility of them. It's just like, what does it look like for them to grow an awareness of these issues and to care at a young age, and for that care to blossom and grow and develop as they continue to grow. And man, this is exciting. It's amazing to me to get to hear this, because it also impacts me of like, gosh, what kind of things do I want my kids to know and to care about? And what does it look like for me to model that well for them? And that's exciting. Okay. So first of all, before I ask my next question, let me just say, are there any other follow-up comments? There's a lot of stuff that we've covered here. Any follow-ups, Josiah or Breanna, to any of these things that we've talked about so far?
John, I don't know where this fits in at, but we've shared a lot about kind of what we're doing and the impact it has. And I don't want to underappreciate the amount of engagement and investment it takes from these women, right? And so I remember, I think my last trip, pre-pandemic, and I get there, I get to like the headquarters. It's like this compound, and they open the gates, and they're like the 10 women that we'd helped fund their program for. And they each had a rose, and they were there saying thank you to me, right? And I was like, oh my God, like it felt so underwhelming. Yeah, we did the fundraising, but man, think about what you've done. Think about like you being willing to run away from a scary problem, being willing to invest on a daily basis in your rescue and rehabilitation. What I've done is nothing in comparison to that, right? And so it's like this. It's this weird, like, I'm thankful that we get the opportunity to do what we do with Beza, but I always have to remind myself, man, it's not the nitty gritty, the grit, the challenging part of that's happening every day. That, as you can imagine, through that program here, of all the different peaks and valleys and challenges that these women have to overcome. And then it seems so simple of what we're trying to do, or so easy in comparison.
It's a daily choice for them to choose to fight through the hard, to have this transformation that awaits them on the other side. And I know in the early days, it's a moment by moment. Like, a lot of these girls have to fight and battle addictions, and there are health struggles. And like Josiah is completely right. Like, they're the ones that are putting in the work day in and day out, moment by moment, to create the stories that we celebrate.
Thanks for joining us for this special bonus episode. We hope you enjoyed it. As always, please subscribe, rate and review, and share with all the other alumni boys and girls, because Santa will know if you don't. Too far? Okay. Well, thanks for listening, and I will see you after the new year, alumni.